All right. Hey, everybody. Hope you guys and gals out there are doing well. See, there's got 4 of you here on the live stream. I know we'll wait a little bit, wait for some folks to jump on, but yeah, I just wanted to jump back on again this week and plan on making live streams every week as long as time permits. Just to answer questions and bounce ideas off y'all and see how everything's going. Hey, Lucio, how you doing, man? Good evening from London. Good evening to you from Michigan. So I'm about a mile away from Lake Michigan. It's much warmer now than the past week. We got a ton of snow here, as I'm sure you got plenty of colder weather there in London. But London, great town. Absolutely loved it over there. I spent some time. I was actually lived in Belgium for about 2 years in 2005 to 2007. Did some training over there, so it was great to spend time and visit London. Never got to Scotland. That's awesome. Evening from Scotland. Good deal. Yeah, I appreciate that, Ivan. Yeah, it was great to. That was the fastest he's run indoors by about 9 seconds. He ran 15:30. Last year as a sophomore, he ran 15:39 indoors. He's run 15:08 outdoors. But yeah, he was pleased with that 15:30, and then the night after that, he went out and ran that 9 flat for 3,000, and yeah, that was impressive because he got a real bad blisters. I know a lot of you have dealt with those, as I have too. You get those in the middle of the races, and then you got to try to keep your composure. And he had about 6 laps left in the 5,000, and he said that the blister, he could feel it, and then it popped. And so he was in a lot of pain in those last few laps. So, but yeah, I appreciate that, Ivan. Thanks so much, man. LS91. Hey, Coach, good to catch one of these live. Keep up the great videos. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. It is a lot of work, but at the same time, it's something I enjoy doing. And obviously being able to share and hopefully help some athletes out there. Again, I'm just one voice out of, millions of other people online that run. And, not always the best advice, but hopefully it's some good advice that, you can take some and throw away what you don't need. But yeah, I do the best I can. Definitely appreciate the support. Yeah, Zach. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Hope everyone had a solid training week. And I know it's not easy to get out there. Even just going out and running aerobically and just running easy runs, doing long, easy runs of like 2 to 3 hours, that is a lot of pressure, a lot of work on the body. And so to go out there and just to stay consistent and do it over a long period of time, yeah, you got to maintain your enthusiasm and motivation. But yeah, I'm with Zach there. Definitely hope all of you are having a great week. Had a great week, and you have some downtime tonight and go into next week healthy, and hopefully have some great workouts and some great races if you have some races planned. It's great to see all these athletes. We got here in the U.S. anyways, got the U.S. trials for the marathon coming up next month. So it'll be interesting to see what those guys and gals out there do. At least for the men, I'm sure we're probably going to need to run. They'll probably need to go somewhere under 208, 209 to make the team. Top 3 make it, of course. Females probably around low 220s. So. It's going to be competitive for sure, as it always is at that level for sure. But yeah, I know Ivan. Yeah, I know you got some big goals coming up, man. I know you're definitely going to be able to go. Based on what you've done in the past, man, I see you going well under 250 for the marathon. So just keep at it, man. Hey, Mohammed, hope you're doing well, man. Coach, why did you copyright strike Coach Jason thumbnail? Oh, okay. Great question. In terms of, I don't know him personally. He seems like a great guy. But one thing that you can't do, especially as a creator, and again, you can't use other people's content or other people's pictures. He was basically taking my thumbnails and my personal pictures and placing them on his videos. And so I know, he reached out to me after the fact of, why did you do a copyright strike for that? It's just the principle. It's something, I personally, I don't want to use, like, if I used your pictures, Mohammed, your personal pictures, or if you were making videos and I used your own artwork and put them on my thumbnails, I would expect you to reach out to me and say, hey, you need to correct that. And I did send him numerous emails, and I was always confused by why he wouldn't respond to me until after I reached out to YouTube, to tell them to have him take his my thumbnails off his videos. But he always responded after YouTube, took those off. So it was nothing personal. It was just business. I'm a businessman, and I just personally don't like that. I don't like other content creators doing that as well. And again, it was just something that, it's a learning experience for him. The copyright strikes, those will be taken off after 90 days anyways. In fact, I actually took off one of the strikes because he had about 6 or 7 videos where he was using my personal pictures and my personal thumbnails. And I actually went back in and took off one of the strikes, and then found he had other videos that he wasn't responding to. So again, it was nothing that I wasn't trying to be, a prick or trying to be an idiot to him, but it was just a learning experience and something that, a lot of content creators, he personally, I don't think it was his intention to do that. Okay. From what I saw of his channel, I like his videos. I think he is a good guy. And I just think that a lot of content creators don't necessarily always know that. A lot of pictures and content that other content creators create, that's copyrighted information and copyrighted artwork. So you can't do that. So it was nothing personal against Jason, and definitely wish him and his channel success. But it's just something that, because of repeated emails that I didn't get responses to, there was a point where I was just like, I got to do that. So, I mean, again, it wasn't nothing personal to him, but, I'm pretty low key and pretty chill. But when it comes to, my own brand and things that, I've been working on this channel for about 5 years now, on my website itself since 2011. So it's just out of respect for, and again, teaching other creators that just be wary of this. Don't do that, because you could lose your channel by doing that. But those strikes will go off his channel after 90 days anyways, just as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, and he's doing the right thing. So, hey, Lane, good evening to you too, man. Did you ever run the 100, 200? I ran the 400 meter when I was in high school. I ran 53.6 for the 400 meter in high school. I wish I would have done that in college just to see, but I don't think I would have probably got much faster than maybe mid 52 or maybe a low 52, but I ran 53.6 in high school. And my pleasure, Mohammed. Again, I think he's doing, great things. And again, it seems like a great coach, great guy. Again, it's just, I think it was a harmless action on his part. I definitely don't think he was doing it intentionally, as I did have some correspondence with him through email, and he seemed to like, okay, I get it. And now he's making his own thumbnails and his own artwork. So he's doing well. LFC 91, I'm going for a sub 250 in late May, but first 5 to 6 miles of the course are downhill. How do I manage pacing considering it's the start of the race? Take advantage of the downhill or still go out easy? Yeah, in terms of the good thing about going downhill is, you can be a little bit more conservative and still run at a very quick pace, because again, obviously you're going downhill and you're going to naturally speed up, but the heart rate will drastically go down even when you're running downhill. So I would just maintain your effort, but try to be a little bit more conservative, go out a little easier, because everybody's going to take off. And the fact that they know already that, okay, if they've studied the course and they're going way too fast in the first 6 miles, and they know it's downhill, you can really, make up for that by being a little bit more conservative. So I would go out a little easier, and just the fact that it's downhill, naturally you're gonna still hit some nice splits, and then just draft off some people. Also, make sure too, when you're in that race, run the tangents. If a right turn's coming up or a left turn's coming up, stay on the side of the road that's coming, where there's a right hand turn coming up. Stay as far to the right of the road as possible. Don't run any further than you need to in the race. always kept that in mind when I was racing too. I mean, even, my nephew running cross country races, I always tell him the same thing. I was like, man, make sure that you run the least amount of distance. If there's left turn coming up, make sure you get to the far left. Just run as strategically as you can and economically and efficiently as you possibly can in the race. So yeah, good luck to you in that sub 250. That's a tough time, man. Sub 250 is no joke. Jonathan, hey Jonathan, how you doing, man? Kenneth, good to see you, man. Kenny's another athlete that I'm coaching. He is a beast. This guy is going to be setting some massive new personal bests. He's got huge, anaerobic engine for sure. So it's great working with Kenny too. Jonathan, hey Nate, looking back on your career, do you have any regrets on or anything big you would like to have different now that you are older and smarter? Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody's got regrets, but high school, I wish I would have been much more strategic in terms of I wanted to go under 4 minutes for the 1600 meter, and looking back, I just did not have that type of leg speed. I ran 425 for 1600, and I ended up running 422 for the full mile. But going out in 60 seconds several times in the first 400 meters of a 4-lap race. If I could go back now, I wish I would have went out, say, 64, 66, 67 the first lap of those races that I went out 60, and maybe would have went sub 420 for 1600 meters, maybe at maybe 416, 415, 17 range. I think that a lot of times I was trying to, and I compared myself to other athletes a lot of times too. I think that we all do that sometimes. We see other athletes and what they're running. And really really what comes down to is what type of work are you putting in? What are we as athletes, what are we doing to prepare for our own races? You can't, if you focus so much of your energy on things that are really outside of your control, which sometimes I did, got caught up with, well, he's running this, then I can run this time. Just focus on what you're doing. And, it just takes one less, it takes that stress, the mental and physical stress off the body. Just one less thing to worry about. I don't think in terms of the marathon and the longer races, I don't really have any regrets. Because really when I broke 220, that was like, that for me was like making the Olympic team. And it was unfortunate because I ran that time, that 219, 28 days after the 2008 U.S. Olympic trials were held. So Chicago, I ran 251, went out in 111. It was the worst heat of the race, the race's history. Went out 111, practically walked and jogged the last 15 miles of the race. So it was disappointing to run that slow for me. And then, but 3 months later, I ran 219, but it was 28 days after the Olympic trials. So I don't have any real regrets of the longer races, but sure. Many races when I was in my 20s and 30s, just going out too fast in races, not being more conservative in the first half. Naturally, the longer I've been in the sport, running that negative split, like I always preach now, that's the reason why I say that, because a lot of times I, as well as other athletes, we go way too fast in the first half and we blow up. So a lot of times I did that, especially when I first started running marathons too. So yeah, those are some of the regrets I have, going way too fast. So Kenny, hi coach. Do you think runners should be in a down week after 2 to 3 week buildup? If so, what should be the reduced mileage by percentage? Yeah, I do even factor that in with the training we'll be doing, as well as the training plans that I've made. I do like the fact that even Dr. Vigil and Coach Hazen, that coached me at Malone University, those two guys definitely are the legends of coaching distance running, and they always preach that too. Focus on doing a recovery week at about every 3 weeks into your training routine, so that you're adapting, but you're allotting some time for your body to adapt to the workouts you're doing. In terms of the percentage reduced mileage, it's going to vary from athlete to athlete. I'd say about 10% during the 10% lowering of the volume than the previous 3 weeks. And again, it's going to vary from coach to coach, athlete to athlete. But I think that having some downtime about every 3 weeks, having a recovery week thrown in, is important so that you can continue to bounce back and continue to do the hard workouts, because it's a huge challenge. And sometimes you can go out and just run easy. Like I did a 10-miler today, and just running aerobically for that amount of time. Sometimes even that can be a challenge. So, you come back and you've got to make sure that you're really hydrating well, that you're getting proper sleep, you're getting enough protein and carbs and recovering from the workout. So yeah, I think, but that's where I would aim. You do want to, and we'll factor that in your future training too, coming up in February, March, and as we move forward in your marathon prep too. So hope that answers your question, Kenny. Great question too. Lucas, how much can I drop my 1500 time in one season? My current time is 4:32. Awesome job running that 4:32. In terms of what an athlete can do, I mean, I've seen just things that blow my mind in terms of how much time athletes can drop. So I can't place, an exact time of what you're capable of. I won't place a limit on you. I never like to place limits on myself as well. So really, whatever time you're aiming for, if you want to run, say, under 4:10, get accustomed to running at that particular intensity. And, right now you're at 4:32. You can definitely drop several seconds in a full season. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible to get down in the 4:0s. It's a big chunk of time because, if you're to go from, say, like a 4:32 to a 4 flat, that's very aggressive. It's a very aggressive goal. But I would think going from 4:32 to, say, like 4:10 is possible. It's still not, but again, anything really, depending on how the drive and motivation of the athlete. Like I said, I've seen guys that could run in the 28s for 8 kilometers for cross, go down and run in the 25s by the end of the season. But again, that's 8K versus a 1500, which is much more anaerobic versus the 8K. It's still more of a, even the 1500 is still an aerobic event compared to, say, like the 100 or the 200. But yeah, I wish you the best. I mean, you're already very competitive. You run 4:32. Just keep practicing on, running at paces much faster than that. Doing 1 VO2 max workout, working on your speed, getting that in terms of your tempo run. I would work to, get your tempo out to about 3 miles. If you're doing triple the distance of your race, which is generally, a little bit more than triple. If you factor in the 1500, it's 109 meters short of a mile. That's going to help you. That's going to help make that 1500 feel that much easier as well. So I hope that's helpful, Lucas. My pleasure. Jump, sail, dive. Hey, coach, is there a minimum, maximum number of strides one should be doing a week? Not really. I do like 4 to 6 100-meter strides 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes you can just do strides once per week, like before a track workout or a road or the start of your long runs or during your long runs. I mean, but I would recommend probably doing strides twice per week. Again, in terms of how many reps you do or how much rest in between, should be full rest. I mean, it really just is a gradual increase in intensity, but doing between 4 and 6 100-meter strides, minimum once per week, but 2 to 3 times per week for most athletes is where you're going to make your money. And over a long period of time, you're really going to help work. That's going to help you improve your form. It's going to, again, they're so short, you're not going to build up any real significant amounts of lactic acid buildup. So you can do those types of workouts on top of everything else you're doing and still not really, get fatigued from doing that. So just pay attention to, obviously, the recovery, what you're doing after the track workouts and road sessions. You'll be set for success. Hope that's helpful. AZ3, good to see you. At work right now, so I can't watch, but thanks for everything you do. My pleasure. Appreciate the support. Hope everyone out there is reaching for the dream. Much love. I respect. One more question. For a 16-week build-up to a marathon, should at least 25% of weekly mileage, be it goal marathon race pace or faster, even the early weeks or the down weeks. Yeah, and for an athlete of your level, I would recommend, at least 25% of weekly mileage should be around that. The best distance runners, the best middle distance runners at the very top run around 40% of their weekly mileage at their anaerobic threshold, which is right around where we race at, maybe slightly faster than where we race at. But when you see these athletes from, all over the world, America, Kenya, Ethiopia, all these runners, they're making it look easy for a reason. It's just not just because they're genetically talented. Yes, they are genetically talented, of course, but because they're running at a higher intensity for a larger portion of their weekly volume, that is naturally they've adapted to that, and so they do make it look easy, and they're able to sustain race pace for a long period of time, and they do look very comfortable even at running at race pace. So, I do think that's you do want to, in the early weeks, obviously you do want to be a little bit more conservative in terms of your build up and building that aerobic base. But once you've spent several weeks into a build up and you are in decent aerobic and anaerobic shape, then I would definitely factor that in, especially if you're wanting to drop some significant time off your races. A lot looking back to the race, the training I've done and the training I've done with other athletes that were far better than me, that made Olympic teams, made world championship teams. They spent such a high volume, and they were around there 25 to 40% running at very aggressive efforts, very, very fast. But they also, they were doing other things that, looking back, it also is the reason why they were able to train and race at such a high level. After the workout was done, they kind of just if it was a poor workout or it was a great workout, they didn't spend too much time. They didn't, focus too much of their time on the workout. They were always looking for the next workout, the next race. And so I think that's something to keep in mind for all of us as athletes. You can't, after the workout's done or after the race is done, whether it was good or bad, you learn from it, but you can't go back and change anything from that, but you can change what you do in the future. So don't dwell too much on a few bad races or a bad workout. Just keep plugging away. Even if it was a piss poor workout, you're still going to get a physiological boost from that. You're still going to get a benefit from that workout, and every workout we do builds on it the next workout. So there's going to be ups and downs, as you all know. There's going to be times where you question yourself. There's going to be times where you wonder if you're training for the right event or your best workouts or best races are behind you. Just stay consistent with it, But I would recommend that. And you're going to have to be patient, but with where you're at and your level of capability, Kenny, I think you're mature enough and prepared enough to do that, and we'll definitely be implementing that. So, Ivan, which heart rate zone racing at half marathon? Thanks. Yeah, when you're racing at your half marathon effort, again, every athlete's going to be different, but most of the time when I was doing my faster long runs, when I was at my very fittest, I was running at 160 to 165 beats per minute. And when I was at my fittest, I was running anywhere from the 520s to 540s per mile pace at 160 to 165 heart rate. So heart rate zone, again, it's going to really depend on, it's a tough question to answer, but again, if you're training at faster paces, you're not just running slow every weekend, the body and the heart will adapt to that, and you will run much, much faster, much more economically, even at lower heart rates. So I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully that's helpful. Hey, Jared. Hello, Major from Kentucky. Good stuff. Kentucky. I'm in a cool weather WIMP and have been running on my non-motorized treadmill this year. Hey, there's no shame in the treadmill. I know it's not the same as running outdoors, but sometimes you're just going to have to get on there and do the workouts, because if you have like a tempo run or a track session and there's like several inches of snow on the ground. I mean, yeah, you can go out there with spikes and you can still do your track workout, but you just really have to keep in mind that, hey, the splits are not going to be there. You're not going to be anywhere close to the types of paces that you're aiming for. So no shame in doing a treadmill. Sometimes you just have to do it. And the world's best runners are out there doing, training on them at times. So do you feel these treadmills are equal to outside sub-3 attempt in April? Well, first, good luck in that. You got plenty of time. April, you're going to have to put in the work, but it sounds like you're in great shape already. But treadmill running, I mean, nothing equates to running outdoors, but if you're running on a treadmill because there's, and you're running at least 0.05% to 1% incline, that's, especially at 1%, you're running basically equivalent to running outdoors, because obviously there is no wind resistance indoors. And, with the treadmill, obviously it's just stuck on that same pace, which is great because, it's much easier just to, dial in on the pace and just focus on that work, on the intensity that you're running at, that you're wanting to run at. But yeah, I think that it can be equivalent to running outside, just based on, and you don't have to always be at a 1% incline or a 0.05%. They always say around 1% incline is equivalent to running outside, but you can still get a strong workout and just staying at 0%. But again, if you were planning on doing, say, a 16-kilometer run or 10-mile run at, say, 7-minute mile pace, then if you're running at 0% incline, or you're running with no incline on the treadmill, you might want to run at maybe 650 mile pace to equate to running outdoors. And it's going to vary obviously by a few seconds, but I hope that answered your question, Jared. And good luck with that sub 3 hours. I don't think enough athletes know how difficult breaking 3 hours, just going under 3 hours is, for a lot of it, even breaking 4. But for you to be able to go out and do, going after a 2:59, respect, because there's a lot of athletes out there that wish they could go that quick. They're having difficulties breaking 6 hours or breaking 5 hours. So well done. Lean, how are the athletes running 40% at race pace able to recover so they can do this? My legs are smoked after one speed and tempo session. Yes, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. I don't know if a lot of you have seen the video by Dr. Joe V. Hill called V-Hilosophy. I'll leave his presentation below this video if you haven't seen it. And that is a video where he touches on some of the world's top middle to long distance runners that he's coached himself and how they were running 40%. How they do that is just consistent hard work over a long period of time. This is not something I'm sure that they do immediately. A lot of these athletes have several years under their belt, and probably 15 to 20%. They start off at much lower percentages versus 40%. They don't just jump into that. But yeah, his book, Run to the Top, highly recommend that book too. If you don't have it, it's very hard to find now too. But that being said, I'll leave a link to his Run to the Top book as well. If you don't have that, highly recommend getting that book too. When you order it from, I know a few places have it. You can also buy it from him, and he will actually autograph it. He always writes something in his books. But yeah, I'll leave the presentation, his presentation, where he talks about athletes running 40%. But I hear where you come from. It's tough to recover from track sessions and doing those tempo runs and doing long runs. I hear you. It's just you got to be patient with it. Yeah, my pleasure, Kenny. Glad it was helpful, man. Jump, sail, dive. Is there such a thing in running? Is running too easy? I hear a lot of talk of zone 2 running, but is there any benefit to running in zone 1, or should we be aiming for? No, I don't. In terms of running easy, especially after, say you're doing like repeat Ks on the track, or you're doing repeat 500s or 600s, if I'm doing that, I am jogging the next couple of days. And I was even when at my fittest, I really wouldn't pay too much attention to what pace per mile or pace per kilometer I was running on my recovery days. They were really locked. I was really locked in on just paying as much attention to, okay, what can I do in the hours after these workouts that will help me adapt the best and help me to recover. And so I was always focused on just jogging. I've trained with sub 210 marathoners, sub 61-minute half marathoners who would jog 8 to 9 minute mile pace on their easy days. So a lot of those guys, and a lot of the female athletes I trained with, a few athletes that made the Olympic team and the Olympic trials that really ran slow on their easy days. So I think there is a place for zone 1 running where you're just chilling out, just jogging, taking it easy. But it's a mixture. Zone 1, zone 2 is fine. Just don't spend too much time running easy, because again, if you're, most of you on that are watching this have time goals, but a lot of athletes out there that really don't have that as much of they're not placing that much of an emphasis on running a specific time. They just want to go out and start and finish a 5K or start and finish a marathon. And so you don't necessarily need to be as technical and as specific about your training to that point. You just got to stay consistent, work on, burning fat, building endurance, going out there and having a good time, and being out there with your family and friends, versus us that are a little bit more technical, a little bit more specific with our training. We ask a little bit more in-depth questions. So yeah, my pleasure, Jared. No need to call me sir, man. I appreciate that. But, I'm former enlisted, so I always felt most comfortable with just people calling me by my first name, Nathan or Nate, rather than sir. But if you're in the military, some of you are, if you're an officer, they call us sir. If you're female, they call you ma'am. But I appreciate the respect though, regardless. Hey, Matt. Hi, coach. Did my first marathon in 3:05. Outstanding. Nice job. On 40 miles a week in October last year. Would you suggest progressing to over 50 a week for under 3 and run some double days? Yeah, absolutely. Going from 40 to over 50 a week isn't, as drastic. If you're going from 40 to 100 miles a week, I would say you might want to be a little patient with your buildup. But going from 40 to over 50, I think, is a good solid plan. You're not ramping up so high that you're going to tax yourself and not be able to perform at sub 3. The fact that you've run a 3:05 definitely proves to me you're capable of running well below under 3 hours. So yeah, and the double days, yeah, they will definitely help you to be able to do those higher weeks for sure. And sometimes too, if you do those double days, you can do, running over 40 miles, over 50 miles a week. You maybe run 4 days a week and then have 3 days off. Or, every athlete's a little different, but you can do with those double days, you can definitely do more mileage. But yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, Lean, I'll leave that below this. Yeah, you guys will. Dr. Vigil, I was very fortunate to have been mentored by him. He is he's a world-renowned exercise physiologist. If you guys have never heard of him, but also one of the world's top distance running coaches, middle distance coaches, and his presentation is always on point. I mean, his anything you can find on Dr. Joe Vigil, just listening to him will make you want to go out and run a new PR like tomorrow. Like if you think you're working hard now, listening to his presentations, man, you're going to have to step your game up. And that's the way he was with us at Malone when I competed at Malone University. Coach Hazen, Jack Hazen, who was my collegiate coach there, he's a real good friend of Dr. Vigil. And to work with Jack and to work with Joe, those two guys are just legends in the sport. Great men, great coaches, great people. But Vigil he's like 93 now. The guy looks like he's like 75, super fit, still out doing presentations, helping athletes. Great guy. But yeah, I'll leave that. Yeah, you guys will love that presentation too. And you'll hear the way he talks. A lot of the stuff that he's bringing up, a lot of stuff is the stuff that I kind of bring up in my videos too. And just talking like, hey, if you really want to drop time, if you really want to sustain pace for a longer period of time, you're gonna have to ask so much more out of yourself than you currently think you're doing right now. You really have to also pay attention to recovery, but you'll hear a lot of that from. I guess I'm getting a lot of that from him too, for sure. Kenji and me, I want to improve my steady pace from 3:30 per kilometer pace. What is it? 340. That's about 345 marathon pace. Very, very good. The 320 per K pace. 320, that's okay. Or no, 340, the 320. That's much faster than 340K, 320K pace, kilometer pace. That is unless I'm incorrect, I think that's around 223 marathon pace. 320K. No, I'm wrong. 318. Yeah. You're in great shape if you're running 340 down 340 to 320K pace. That's awesome. Is 10 kilometer runner enough 40 miles a week? Yeah, my pleasure, Matt. Yeah, 40 miles a week for an athlete training for 10K. I mean, you don't, it's really, again, it goes back to the quality versus quantity. I mean, you can be running 100 miles a week and still not set a PR in the 10K if you're not setting up that volume correctly. But 40 miles a week, if you're doing quality work, if you're paying attention to, recovery, and if you're looking at your sleep, your nutrition, your mental preparation, and not just focusing all of your energy just on physical training, but you're also training mentally as well. You're doing the other things that you're looking at all the other little details of what the other athletes, the top runners do. You're going to be successful, Kenji. And 40 miles a week is plenty. Yeah. Lucio, what is the max percentage of the weekly mileage should the long run be during marathon training? I have lots of 20-mile in my marathon plan, and it easily reaches 40%, but I read it should be around there. 20 to 30% is right around the right percentage of mileage your long run should be. Yeah. And I think if you're training for the marathon, there are athletes out there that can really get in superior shape and go out and set new personal best in the marathon, running around 15 to 17 miles. Other athletes go further. I would recommend, again, it's just my background, but most of mine were anywhere from 18 to around 24. Longest run I ever did was 30, and I only did one 30-mile run once. And I did several 26, 27-milers. But most of my long runs were 18 to 23 miles. I think there's a point where it's diminished returns the further you go. I think, 20 miles, 32 kilometers is really going to pay dividends in the long run. As long as you stay consistent, you keep doing it, and you're varying your paces. You're running easy one weekend, you're running faster, varied efforts in the next weekend. And that's that type of mindset, that type of philosophy. Lisa Rainsberger, who won the Boston Marathon in 1985, she kind of got me on that focus when I first got to the Army World Class Athlete Program. I didn't have a time anywhere near a national qualifying time in the marathon in 2007 when I arrived there. I had run 51:53 for 10 miles and 1:10 for the half. And so I was a provisional athlete. I was on provisional status. Basically, they were giving me a year to train full-time away from full-time military work to get a national ranking in the marathon. And once I was given that opportunity, I got my half down to 1:07:06 and ran the marathon 2:19:35. So there is something to be said about if you can take the stress off of what you're doing, or if you can just set up your training in a different way, how that will drastically help you drop significant time in your chosen event. So I hope that's helpful, Lucio. Lee goes running. What are some marathon tapering tips you suggest? I'm 3 weeks out from Seville. Okay. 3 weeks is in most cases, in terms of the taper, 3 weeks. My pleasure, Lucio. 3 weeks is in most cases good, a solid taper for most athletes, but I would not I wouldn't start dropping your volume and intensity until you're 10 days out from Seville rather than 3 weeks out. Continue to do your training 10 days out. That's when I would significantly drop about 60% of your volume 10 days out. Also, when you go in 4 days out from Seville, if it was me, I would do a 3-mile run or a 5K run at goal marathon race pace 4 days out from Seville. And then 3 days, the remaining 3 days, either off or just jogging, 2 to 3 miles, what is it, 3.2 kilometers, 3 to 5 kilometers, easy, relaxed running, jogging going into Seville. But I would do a 10-day taper rather than 3 weeks. I've always set PRs doing 10-day tapers. And I've seen other athletes that I've coached that have followed my plans that do that 10-day taper, and it seems to really work for them as well. So again, every athlete's going to handle things differently, but I think minimum 3, but preferably 10 days out. So I wish you the very best in Seville. Hopefully you get a great performance there and a new PR, and hopefully the weather's great for you too. Yeah, Kenji, I would do, in terms of tempo runs, even the faster, very paced long runs I talk about, I always did my faster long runs in racing flats. Okay, if it was easy long run, it was an easier long run, training shoes. But if you're doing a tempo run, I would get some racing flats on your feet. Psychologically, it's going to help you. You're going to feel faster. The pace, the splits in most cases, depending on your fitness level, in the day, super windy out, that can affect things. But I would, Alpha Fly 2, that's a great racing shoe for sure. I have not raced in many years, but let's just say I'm putting in some work, and I will definitely get some of the Alpha Fly 2s. I've never, even when I ran my PR in the marathon, I was wearing 3K, 5K racing flats that were not carbon plated, any of that. I was back in 2007. We didn't have that type of shoe technology, but what athletes are doing now, especially now, if you're preparing for a race, make sure that you have some of those carbon plated shoes. Everybody else is going to have them on. And so don't let them have the advantage over you, and again, like I talk about in other videos and things I'm brought up here, run the tangents in the race. Don't run any further than you need to in the race. So, hey, Vaughn, thanks for your support, man. I appreciate it. I do, really do. Yeah, you guys, folks that watch the videos and take the time to, hear my thoughts, inspires me too to hear from all of you as well and what you're doing. So, but yeah, appreciate that, Vaughn. Thanks so much. Let's see. I can't pronounce it here. Long Cali. Okay. Hi, coach. I usually train in the evenings due to my work schedule, but I've noticed that my body tends to go into a bit of shock when I race in the early morning. Any advice on that? Yeah. Some of us are more morning type individuals. Other athletes are, I'm not a morning person either. It's hard to race or to do track workouts, in the early mornings. There were times when I was in the military, and I had to report to work at say like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. I had to get up between like 4:30 and 5:30, 5 o'clock or so to do, repeat 1600s or repeat 2 miles on the track. That was the hardest thing. And at the same time, even though it was extremely difficult, it did get easier over time. So I just think in terms of the advice I can give you is just think of what you're doing. What is your why? What are you getting out there to do? How badly do you truly want success? Because it's not going to be easy. Your schedule is not always going to be perfect. Your boss and the company you work for is not always going to be excited about what you're doing. It really comes down to your associations, the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Remind yourself of what you're going after and what it's going to take to achieve what you're going for. And in most cases, if you want it badly enough, you'll do what needs to be done. And obviously, I already know you have that drive. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking a question like that. So, but I think make sure that you're stretching well before you, especially in the early mornings. There's no need to pull a hamstring or pull a muscle by just jumping into your workout. Make sure you're stretching well. You're doing some light strides prior to the start of those workouts. And a lot of cases, drinking some coffee. Maybe you're not a coffee drinker. Maybe you are. For me, I always drank a little bit of coffee about an hour before a workout, or have some kind of caffeine, something that will help you in terms of getting a little bit more awake prior to the start. So I wish it was easier, but it's not. A lot of times it was much easier for me, especially when I got accepted in the Army World Class Athlete Program. I could do those workouts. We would be at the track at like 10 o'clock, or 9 to 10 o'clock if we had a track workout. Much easier to do that than doing track workouts at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, my pleasure, Les. Appreciate your support too. The Mechanic 440, hello from Illinois. Welcome. Thank you for all the information about training that you put out. Hey, thanks again for your support. It is there's so many topics to cover. There's so much to talk about, and I think the biggest challenge at times for me is just finding what are the pain points a lot of athletes have, and hopefully answering those questions. And there's ways I do that, but it's I just share what I know and what I've been taught. And hopefully you can take some of those things and use it in your own training to help you, get that goal you're aiming for. See, Dub, how soon to get back into workouts after a goal half marathon? I've got a full marathon in 3 months. Yeah, I just made a video about this question that you're asking just prior to the start of jumping on this live stream. And so check this week's videos, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I try to always aim for about 3 videos a week. But I did cover this in one of the videos, but I'll just touch on it a little bit here in terms of how soon to get back into workouts after a goal half marathon. What I would do is after a half marathon, I would give myself a minimum of 3 days off completely. Sometimes, just depending on how fatigued I felt, I would take a complete week off. And again, you're going to lose a minimum amount of fitness in a full 7 days off, hardly any fitness, and you'll gain it right back very quickly. If you were taking 2 weeks off or a month off, that's a little different story. You're going to lose the fitness there, but you can quickly gain even that back. But if you take 3 to 4 days off, I would take 3 to 4 days off after the half marathon and start building up for your full marathon in 3 months. You should be fine with after, if it was a 5K or 10K, we can run these races, these shorter races, and to be able to continue to bounce back off of those pretty quickly. But half marathons and marathons require a lot more recovery, especially the marathon. Half marathon, you can still do it too. But the fact you got a full marathon in 3 months, I think if you take 3 to 4 days off completely and then start your build up back up, you'll be fine. Lean, how much of an advantage are the super shoes? Sort of feels like they are cheating. What do you think? Yeah, great question. To me too, it does feel like cheating as well. I haven't yet run a race in super shoes yet, so I can't really necessarily, but I am training in the Nike Zoom Tempo X, I think is the name of the shoe, and it has a carbon plate in it as well. And there is a difference, I feel, between those shoes and the Brooks Ghost that I wear, which are both training shoes. But I looking at the times that these athletes are running today versus 2007 when I ran my PR, it boggles my mind what these athletes are doing. Like, I think when I ran 2:19, the women's world record was around I think it was 2:15. It was 2:15. It was the lady from England. What's her name? It'll come to me in a second. But yeah, the world record for women was 2:15, and the world record for men was around 2:03:59. And now the world record for females is 2:11:53. Yeah, Paula Radcliffe. Yeah, she had the 2:15 and then now at 2 hours 35 seconds for men. That's 19 minutes, a full 19 minutes faster than my PR. It's insane. But it is what it is. I think too, there are a lot of athletes out there that are wearing they're wearing carbon plated racing flats and still are getting outrun and still getting beat by athletes that aren't wearing them. So the shoes themselves, obviously, they are an advantage if you're in phenomenal shape and you're ready. I hate to be up against somebody that's wearing those and I'm not wearing them. But at the same time, it's not necessarily guaranteed that you're going to PR with these shoes. It's how prepared are you mentally and physically going into your races to run a PR or to run a fast time. So really, I think really what counts the most is your preparation, but I see what these athletes are running with those shoes, and how, what is, how much of a difference does it make? And from what I see, it's several minutes. Um, I wish I would have had those on my feet when I ran 219. I don't know how much faster it would have been, but at the same time, I would always have thought too, like, well, what was my real time? What did I really run? And even if I were to consider running another marathon, several months from now, if I were to consider that, am I going to wear the so-called super shoes? Am I going to wear them or not? I haven't decided yet, because I would much rather. At the same time, I know I would be at a disadvantage if I wasn't wearing them. But if I'm not wearing them and I'm wearing just regular shoes, I would know for sure that I ran that time legit. Like it was a legit effort time. Like it was based on my own preparation. So it's tough. I don't know, man. That's a great question, Lane. But I mean, I do know it's several minutes in terms of the advantage versus athletes that aren't wearing them. I don't know how much it is per lap on a 400-meter track. In terms of carbon plated track spikes they have now too. It could be a couple seconds per lap versus the athlete that's not wearing them. So I just think that's something that really comes down to the individual themselves. Like, what, do they want to wear them or not? In most cases, I think that if everybody else is wearing them and you're not cheating in terms of performance enhancing drugs, okay, now that's one problem I have definitely with athletes out there, that it's just running people. You see the athletes that are cheating. Not every athlete out there is, but you see some performances out there like there is no way on earth. There are a lot of athletes out there that are putting in the work, and that are obviously very genetically talented, but they're also not just relying on they're on their talent, their physical talent, physiological talent, but they're putting in that hard work as well. But obviously there's other athletes out there that are relying on performance enhancing drugs to get to the next level. And I have zero respect for that. I mean, it took me 15 years of running. It took me from 1992, when I first started running as a freshman in high school, to 2007 to break 220 for the marathon. And I see athletes out there breaking 220 like every other week. And again, I didn't have a ton of talent, but I know all of you too can kind of understand that as well. Whether you're trying to break 220 or 240 or 3 hours, 4 hours of marathon, or whatever goal you're going for, sometimes it takes decades to get to that point where you just drop one time what these other athletes that are much more genetically gifted can do relatively every other week or every other month or so. So yeah, C-Dub, it's crazy how controversial super shoes were just 4 years ago at the 2020 Olympic trials. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are controversial. It's definitely tough to consider that when you see other athletes wearing those. If you're training for your races and you're getting ready for a road race or a track race, and you're not wearing those shoes, you're at an enormous disadvantage. But at the same time, like I said, it's not a guarantee if you're not wearing the shoes that you're not going to run a fast time, or that you're not going to outrun the other athletes. Focus on you. Don't focus on the other athletes. Focus on yourself and your own preparation. But at least if you're not wearing those, you'll know for sure that you put in that effort without any additional aid. But at the same time, just know that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you if you're not wearing those. So tough call either way. Back, hi, Coach. What's your take on Paul Chalimo switching to the marathon? Paul is an absolute animal. That guy, and how do you think he'll perform at the Olympic trials? Yeah, Paul is a former member of the Army World Class Athlete Program as well. He was there several years after I left. I think he will do very well at the marathon. I mean, he is one of the most. I think his chances of making the trials are very high. Is he running? I don't know is he running the marathon at the trials? Because if he is, yeah, he's definitely got a shot. I don't know if he hasn't run a marathon, I know, but I know he's run around 12:57 for 5K, 8:09 for the 2 mile, I know. So he's definitely got the capability to run low 2:0s for the marathon and make the Olympic trials. But we definitely got a lot of really good American runners. Yeah, he's actually running the marathon at the trials. Oh, okay. That's awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah, knowing Paul, just yeah, those guys better be ready. And I know, I mean, you got Connor Mance. He's running around 207, 208 range. A lot of other top runners coming into that. I think his chances are very good. If he tapers down right, the way he does his track sessions are absolutely insane. He basically does all of his workouts on the same track I did mine out in Colorado Springs at Cheyenne Mountain High School. It's about 6,400 feet. All the WCAP guys out there did their workouts out there. So, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I didn't know he was running the trials, but I think his chances are good. Machowski, sorry if I'm butchering your name here. Is there anything I can do or eat to make my legs move like a Kenyan? They're mesmerizing to watch and to run like butter. Yeah, I hear you. There's not necessarily, I mean, food is very, very critical, very important, but it's your training. Galen Rupp. Yeah, Galen's another one. Galen. But in terms of your question, it's you want to make sure you're eating plenty of pasta, carbs, getting enough protein. But just eating is just one of many factors. And as you know, I know you know that, but it really comes down to the level of training that you put in. You know, just because they're Kenyan, it's not just because they're Kenyan. I mean, obviously they do very high quality training. I've trained in their camps. I've trained with them. I've lived with them. I've outran them. I've been beaten by them. So I know that if you're going to run like a Kenyan, you got to train like a Kenyan. You got to have the mindset. You got to have, it's not just the physical workouts. You got to have the mindset. And what's great about the Kenyans, at least the ones I've lived and trained with, is they're always thinking about the next race. They're not focused on disappointments. They get over disappointments very, very fast. If they had a bad workout, they're looking to the next workout. They're very humble, but they're extremely disciplined, and both mentally and as well as physically. So my advice in terms of how to run like a Kenyan is to, one, be patient with yourself. Know that you're not going to run like a Kenyan quickly and overnight. It may take you several months, several years, in most cases, several years to run at that level. But there are world-class Americans, there are world-class Japanese, there are world-class athletes from all over the world that can run as fast and much faster than Kenyans. So it's just one example, but I respect your question, because I know too. I mean, growing up too, I would always look at the Kenyans because they seem to be the most dominant culture and the most dominant runners out there that seem to be doing, world records and steeplechase. Of course, they dominated for years, but again, their culture is very different than here, at least here in the States. I don't know where you are in the world, but here in the States, I think we have a very soft society compared to the Kenyan culture, and they in order to get results, they know they're going to have to be out regardless of what the weather's like. They're going to be out putting in the work. And early morning, you're Ugandan. Okay, food in Uganda and Kenya is basically the same. Yeah. So okay, just looking at all the comments here. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. But yeah, in terms of your question there, just continue to work on your leg speed. Continue to work toward the times that you have in mind. I don't know what your specific goals are, but whatever they are, continue to train at or far below those particular race paces that you're aiming for. And think long term. Don't think short term. Have some short term goals. Make long term goals as well. But if you want to get to a point where you can run at that level and run with the Kenyans and outrun them, there much is going to be required out of you. I'm speaking from my own experience that I had to live, breathe, and practically do all I was thinking about was running. And I got up to about 142 miles a week training for the marathon, practically at my highest peak. And, again, if you want to run at their paces and you want to outrun them, you have to think like them, and you have to make sure that you're putting in quality training. Hope that answered your question. So I know you can do it. It's just a matter of how badly you want it. How badly do you want it? We all have to find our why. What are we out there putting in the work for? What is going to be required out of us? Most of the time we misinterpret the amount of work that's really going to be required to get to the type of level we're aiming for. I was wanting to run super fast when I was in college, and I didn't really run at the types of times I ended up running for about another decade after that. So just an example. So Mr. 80 Miles, I just started trying to focus being relaxed when running. What's your view on the importance of this and how much it affects pace? It's absolutely vital. Sometimes even when you're running easily, you can feel yourself tensing up, but especially when you're running at your anaerobic threshold, when you're doing track workouts. You look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen, you look at Haile Gebrselassie, former world record holder for the marathon, all these top world-class runners, Usain Bolt in the sprints, they're very, very relaxed. Okay. It's not that they're not nervous. They're not scared at times, or, it's maybe not scared, but nervous. But if you look at these athletes, they are very, very relaxed. They know they've put in the hard work and training. So my recommendation in terms of the importance, obviously, make sure you do your homework in training. You really prepare well in training so that when you get to the morning of the race, or, and the race is about to start, or you're in the race, let your competition be stressed out. If you've done your homework in training, let them be stressed out, not you. It's normal to have a little bit of nerves, but staying as relaxed as you can, and practice staying relaxed in training. It's going to help you with your form as well. But consciously tell yourself, okay, I'm in great shape. Drop your arms, shake out your arms, just chill out. If you're doing track sessions, you're doing, like, say, repeat Ks or repeat 500s or 400s, where you're running at VO2 max effort, and you're really running fast and running, and you feel that tenseness, consciously tell yourself to stay as calm as you can. And, over a long period of time, several months during your buildup, it's going to make you obviously much more relaxed and much more efficient when you're racing. Okay. The less amount of mental stress you're feeling and physical stress you're dealing with, the better your performance is going to be. And it's not easy to run, at fast paces and not feel tense and tight, but consciously tell yourself and continue to practice that. It will get easier with time. And obviously the faster and the more anaerobically fit you become, especially when you go in your taper phase and you really are ready to race, it's just going to make you that much more confident. So hope that answered your question, Mr. 80. Backache, we normally have a staple food, mostly maize flour. Yeah, cassava flour, and then we only change the sauce. Yeah, I've had the ugali, the Kenyan ugali, Kenyan tea I absolutely love. But it sounds like it's very similar type of flour that Ugandan culture too. That's awesome, though. Let's go running. It's a shame that some of these Kenyan African have been found guilty of doping. Just makes me wonder how many of them are running these marathons legit. Yeah, absolutely. And not just them. It's practically, all cultures from around the world. But you do see a lot of Kenyans. You see a lot of athletes from other countries. But you do wonder. My pleasure, Mr. 80 Miles. You do wonder how many of these efforts are legit. I definitely agree with you. I do know, like, who is it? Kelvin Kiptum, the current world record holder for the marathon at 2 hours, 35 seconds. I know he's running around 300 kilometers a week. And few runners are willing to put in that type of work. And I know his training is high quality, but running 2 hours I just can't understand. I'm at a loss for words almost for that. Even 2:11 for females. The level of commitment and level of performances are only going up. And yes, the shoe technology does play a factor for sure. It helps obviously with those times, but several minutes, I'm sure, but still to run that quick. And you see a lot of athletes, like you said, a lot of athletes from Kenya and other parts of the world that are caught doping. With Lance Armstrong, obviously that was years ago in cycling, but you see that too. That it's tough, man. Because I'm like, man, it was always just running with me. I was like, I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I did the very best that I could with with my own capability. Let that be enough. But where people using performance enhancing drugs, and a lot of times in their cases, there's no excuse for it. But a lot of times in their cases, it's running is their livelihood. It's like, I got to do something to get to the next level or to keep this sponsorship or whatever. But even that, man, it's just not worth it. Jonathan, hey Nate, you briefly talked about PIDs. Do you think some high school guys are doing it, specifically EPO, to give them a boost to get school paid for? Great question. It's hard to know. Like I said, some of the times these athletes are running, it is questionable, but I know there's a lot to be said about hard work and a genetic capability. But are there some athletes out there that are doing that? I would assume there are some. I just heard that one athlete recently, it was last night, I think, that ran 12:57 for the collegiate record indoors. Absolutely insane. And I can't think of his name offhand right now, but he's got two other brothers. They're all quick, but it's not so much of a shock that he ran 12:57. But I think there is probably a few, maybe to get school paid for, but it's hard to say. Habakkuk, yeah, you're right. Long-term goal is definitely the best way to do it. Last year I ran throughout with patellar tendonitis, and it got worse this year. I've stopped from running, which might take 6 months. Yeah, I'm with you, Habakkuk. I had patellar tendonitis all through high school and had to have 3 knee surgeries because of it. They basically call it floating bodies, but it was an orthoscopic knee surgery, so it wasn't major, but they had to go in and they had to take out some floating or some cartilage that broke off in my kneecap. But I was wearing those patellar bands that go around the kneecap all through high school. And fortunately, if you ever have that, orthoscopic knee surgery is pretty quick for the most part. You're on crutches for about 2 to 3 weeks, and you can be back running in about a month to 5 weeks after the surgery. But yeah, you're smart taking the time, taking time away. Icing, make sure you're icing, and you can do pull running if you have access to a pull because there's no impact on the joints. That helps a lot. But patellar tendonitis, yeah, it can last a long time, and I had it for several years. And I was still able to run with it. But when the cartilage broke off and I felt it in my kneecap, when it moved in the wrong spot, sometimes it would move in behind my kneecap and would lock my knee up. That's when, I had to actually go in and get surgery and have them taken out. But yeah, I wish you all the best in your training there. Hey, Isaac. Hey, Nathan, I don't have a question. Just want to say, keep up the great work. Love your videos. Thanks for your support, Isaac. I appreciate it. I do. Yeah, I wish I would have made this channel years ago. I wrote blog posts on RunDreamAchieve for so many years, and my wife was like, hey, you need to get beyond just making blog posts, interact with your visitors and make some videos. And it took me a long time because I was, I'm real introverted, really. You wouldn't think with the way I'm talking, but I'm very introverted. It's much easier for me to talk about a subject that I know really well versus not a subject that I don't know that well. But it took me a lot of years to get used to making videos and getting in front of a camera. Now, I mean, it's not so much hard, not as difficult now, but yeah, I definitely appreciate that. It helps. It is a lot of hard work, but doing editing and all and making the videos, but I love what I'm doing. And more importantly, I've seen a lot of athletes get help from, some of the things I've shared, and I learn a lot too from all of you as well. Even beginners out there can teach me something. So yeah, I appreciate that, Isaac. Ricky, have you ever dealt with shin splints, and how ddid you adjust your training? Yeah, I had shin splints only once since I started running, but it was not fun at all. All I did was shin splints. I mean, it lasted a couple months from what I remember. there's not much else you can really do outside of icing. Sometimes, depending on the severity of it, you just complete rest. I know it's hard to take the time away, but if you take 2 to 3 weeks completely off, sometimes that's not even enough with shin splints, depending on the severity. But in terms of how do you do that, how do you deal with it, and how to adjust? In most cases, mine wasn't. It hurt, but I was icing 10 to 15 minutes, 2 to 3 times, sometimes 2 to 3 times each day, and ibuprofen. Sometimes I had to take ibuprofen pretty regularly for that as well. But any type of shin splints or any type of issue you're having where you're going to have you're going to be dealing with impact on those particular areas of the body, I always tell runners, if you can and you want to stay active, but you don't want to take complete rest off, get in the deep end of a pool and do pool running. And if you take the flotation device off, it's much harder. It's a much harder workout. But if you just want to get a light, if you want to do a long run, if you had a long run plan and you have shin splints and it's just too painful for you to go out there and do that, you can wear a flotation device and just chill. It's much easier to do that wearing that and do your long run in the deep end of a pool. There's no impact on your joints, no impact on your shins. But just from my one experience that I had with those, it's definitely not fun, and they can be very painful. But I don't know how much that helps. But yeah, that's just stay consistent with your rehabilitation practices. Make sure you're hydrated, or make sure you're icing regularly. And a lot of athletes take ibuprofen, but best case scenario, take the time away. It's much easier, much better, not easy, but much better to take a few weeks to a month off rather than continue to try to train through this and with shin splints, make it worse, and then either have to have surgery or be forced to take several weeks or several months off because you continue to push. So I know that's not hard, not very easy to do that, but it's just a smart move. Live long. I have a first marathon in 2 weeks. What should I train these weeks? Man, 2 weeks. Great question, but it's hard to know, how to answer that perfectly for you, because 2 weeks is a very crammed amount, a very short amount of time to prepare for a half marathon. My advice to you is to really, I would do for sure 4 days out from the half marathon. I would do a 3-mile run or 5K at goal half marathon race pace, and then the 3 days after that, either jog or off 2 to 3 miles. If you're running 2 to 3 miles, very relaxed. A day before the race or 2 days before the race, maybe do 3 to 4 100-meter strides during your easy jog, just real light. But the last workout I would do, with 2 weeks out, or 4 days out from your half marathon, do a 3-mile run. Just one last reminder of your legs, what you're training them to do. And most importantly, because you have the half marathons in 2 weeks. I don't know how long you've been training. If you just started training for it and you have 2 weeks to train, that's a different story, but I'm assuming you've had a decent you've had several weeks build up going into this, and you have 2 weeks left. If that's the case, I would probably do, let's see. Oh, thanks, Habakkuk. I appreciate it, man. Sage is an awesome guy, man. But live long, in terms of your question, I would do probably, 2 weeks out. I would probably do 3 1,600-meter repetitions at 10K race pace and between a 2 and 4 mile tempo run. And then, like I mentioned before, with that 4 days out, do a 3-mile run at goal half marathon race pace. Just one last reminder, and then chill out after that. 3 days, you're not going to be able to do anything really. Just make sure that you're hydrating well. You get proper sleep 7 days out going into that half. Okay. What's more important is the sleep you're getting that week going into the half marathon versus the night before. It's still important to get some good sleep the night before, but my recommendation is really focus on getting plenty of sleep the week going into your goal half marathon, wherever that is. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Live Long. I'm assuming you have several weeks, several months of training going into this, and you have 2 weeks left. So that's the case. Watch the pace in the race too. Run a negative split in that race. And like I mentioned, if you've been on the live stream from the start, I mentioned focus on running the tangents. Run the least amount of distance you can in that race. If there's a right-hand turn coming up, don't spend any time on the left-hand side of the road. Get to the far right of the road. If you're taking the left, get to the far left of the road. Run the least amount of distances you can in the race. Let the rest of your competition run further if they need to. But just these little details, just thinking about just the little things, when you're in the race, if you feel yourself tensing up, just consciously tell yourself to relax, stay calm. You're in great shape, stay as relaxed as you can at the start line. Just looking back at Sim and at the 2007 California International Marathon, I ran 2:19 that race for 4th place, top American, and we were joking around. I mean, I was, I knew I'd done the work leading into the race, so we were just really relaxed, ready to race. Take confidence in your hard work that you've done for this half marathon, and be as confident as you can. And all the other what ifs, the things that you can't control anything, don't focus any of your attention on that. Just really focus on staying as relaxed as you can, and be confident with what you've done. How do I break 15? Man, respect to you, Caden, if you're going after that. That's I only broke 15 once in my career. I ran 14:18 on the roads, and I ran 15:19 on the track when I was in college. So you need to continue to train at that pace or below, and it may take you, I don't know where you're currently at, but for some athletes, I wasn't an athlete with a huge amount of talent, so it took me several years to get under 15 minutes for a 5K. Other athletes can do it much quicker and much more easy. Okay, you're at 15:30. Oh, that's awesome. My nephew actually just ran 15:30 on Friday night at Kent State University, and you guys are right around the same efforts. I mean, he ran 15:08 outdoors, and he ran 15:30 just recently indoors. But that speed, that's what I was. And you're a sophomore. Awesome. Yeah, I see you going well below 15 minutes before you graduate. You'll probably graduate with maybe like a 14:25, 14:30, or quicker. You have you have 2 more years of training, 2+ more years of training. So you've already run 15:30, so it's not that far away. I would really continue to focus on doing what you're doing right now. What you're doing right now works. The fact that you've run that fast, get accustomed to running closer down toward around 14:30 to 14:45 pace for your 300 to 400, 500 meter reps. Spend some time each week running well below 15 minutes. And I'm sure you already are. That long run, like I talk about in videos, don't run easy every weekend, every other weekend. Still run long, slow, and easy, but just not every weekend. So start running some portions of that long run at VO2 max effort, maybe just for a few seconds or a couple miles. Maybe not at VO2 max effort, but an aerobic threshold effort. You can run a couple miles of that effort. Spend a few minutes at VO2 max effort during the long runs. Always the following week should be relaxed and easy. So you still want to build your endurance, but don't get in the habit of running slow and easy. If you, even for a 5K athlete trying to break 15 minutes, faster long runs will still help you bridge that gap, that 30-second gap. It's going to help you not only build your stamina and your strength, but that's going to help you distance you from your competition too. You got to be very smart with your pacing. Look at what you've done to run 15:30. Maybe you can make some adjustments, not back off a few seconds going through the first mile, first 1,600 meters or so, 1,609 meters, and really drill down. I would not try to make a move until after you've passed the first mile. Then you plan your attack. Run that last 2.1 miles all out. Do you think I could get a full ride scholarship? Are you in high school, or are you a sophomore in college? You're a sophomore in high school and you're running 15:30? Because either 15:30 in high school or college, respect. That's super, super competitive. Yeah, goodness gracious. You're a sophomore running 15:30. Yeah, I do think you could get a full ride scholarship. 15:30. I ran 15:53 as a senior, and I got a scholarship to go to college. Now, at your level, running 15:30 as a sophomore in high school, yeah, you definitely could get a full ride scholarship, but you got to just continue to do what you're doing. Stay consistent with your training, continue to work on your speed, continue to work on your long runs, pay attention to your hydration, pay attention to your recovery. You will be I'd say you'll definitely be under 15 minutes before you graduate. Definitely. And definitely keep me in the loop, and everybody else here on the live stream. Let us know how you've been doing too, because yeah, I wish you the best. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Alyssa, this is so helpful. My race half is next Sunday. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, Alyssa, that's like I said, just do a 3-mile run 4 days out. And then after that, shut it down. Pay attention to your nutrition, hydrate well, stretch, relax, stay as relaxed as you can. The hard work has already been done now. So let your competition stress out the morning of the race. Smile, it's okay to have a little bit of nerves. It's okay, but at the same time, don't be stressed out. You've already put in a ton of work. You're ready. The race is a celebration of all of the hard work you've put in. So wish you the very best. My pleasure, Caden. Yeah, definitely keep us in the loop, man. That is impressive. Yeah. Super Trebo, what's going on, Run Dream? Not much, man. Just love hanging out here, man. Doing well though. This is how much weather makes a difference. I tried to go out for my long run Saturday at Myrtle Beach. It was 67 and 90% humidity. I had to stop a mile 5. Tomorrow it's 50. Do the run tomorrow. Yeah, smart move. There's a lot of athletes out there that can really perform well in hot weather. I was not one of them. I'm a cold weather runner, 100%. I perform better at maybe between 35 and 50 degrees, but 67, 70s, 80s, I can perform decent at 5K. But those longer races, I don't know how these athletes hold up in the marathon in those. In that type of weather. But that's smart. Yeah, that's a smart move. I'm glad the weather will be better for you too. That's good. Heart rate was high after 5 minutes. Yeah, heart rate's going to drastically be affected by heat and temperatures. So when you're running in those types of temps, you have to drastically change your paces that you intended on running at. Sometimes it's 10 to 20 seconds slower per mile or per kilometer or so in heat. So if you're wearing a heart rate monitor in the heat, yeah, it's drastically going to be different versus if you're running in cold weather. So how do I break 420 in the mile? I think that really, Caden, you're well capable of running these types of times already. I don't think in terms of, because what you're doing already works. The fact that you've run 15:30, that definitely proves to me that you'll run under 420. Definitely watch your pacing in that mile. I ran 425 for the mile, or 1600 meters in high school. But a mistake I was making that I always did was I would always go out. I was always trying to run 4 minutes, under 4 minutes. So I would go out 60 seconds, 61 seconds the first quarter. If you want to break 420, don't go out any faster. You don't need to go out any faster than really around 65 to 66. You could even go out in 67 and then come back and break 420. So don't get hyped up and don't get too aggressive in that first lap. Pay attention to that third lap. The third lap is where most of your competition is going to get the weakest. Really pay attention to, you have plenty of time moving into the outdoor season now. Work on your indoor, and going into outdoor. Don't try to don't try to break the 420 mile barrier in the first lap. That's my recommendation. And really stay on your pace in that third lap where everybody else is going to get the weakest. Make your move. Sometimes athletes will try to make their move with 400 meters to go. If you're strong enough, you can make your move 600 meters out. But once you make that decision, be decisive about it and really attack and continue to really focus on staying as relaxed. Stay relaxed even under pressure. Breaking 420 is not going to be, that is That's very, very hard to do, but you're at that level that you're able to do it. So that's my recommendation to you. Just calm down in that first lap, and really pay attention to the third lap of the race, where everybody's going to get weak. Everybody gets weakest there. They always want to wait until the last lap, to really start to make a move. Stay on your pace. You need to hit 65 seconds per lap. So even going out 67, even 68, if you can close down 61s to 63s those next 3 laps or so, you still can break 420. So don't go out 60 seconds or 60 to 62. Are you planning to run 408, or are you planning to break 420? So you don't need to go out in 62, even 62. So hope that's helpful. Heart rate was high. Live long, another question. I'm also going to do a full marathon in 3 months. I never used gels before. When and how do I start using them? Yeah, with those gels, that's an immediate 100 to 150 calories that go into your bloodstream immediately, and your body will need that glycogen. I would start practicing ingesting those in your long runs in training. A full marathon, 3 months, you can still get in great shape in 12 weeks. I always talk to other athletes, focus more on 16 to out to 24 weeks. But if the marathon you want to run is in three months, then really focus on those 12 weeks. But practice drinking and ingesting, and see how your stomach feels ingesting a couple of those gels. If you go out and you do like a 20-mile run, 32-kilometer run, see what between 3 to 4 gels feel ingesting those. Sit those next to your water bottles. That way you can drink on the way out and drink on the way back. That's what I would recommend. A lot of athletes, they do their homework and training, but they don't drink enough in the race, and they don't take in enough calories in the race. So you're on the right path thinking about gels and thinking about what to do in regards to that. So definitely a smart move on your part. I mean, my top races, I was taking in gels. I was practicing ingesting gels in training during my long runs as well, and drinking rather than sipping. Definitely not a bright move to try to think that you're going to run a marathon without drinking, with drinking like the equivalent of 2 Dixie cups of fluid. You'll become dehydrated at the worst time, and sometimes if you neglect that, your hydration and taking in enough gels, it doesn't matter how much motivation you have, you're going to shut down. So that's a great question, Live Long. So definitely keep practicing that in training, so that when it comes to the race time, you're going to be ready. Shakeout run, Alyssa, I would do 2 days before the race. 2 days before the race. The day, again, some athletes take the day off, the day before the race. Some take a day off 2 days before the race. So again, it's fine with either way, but I would do a shakeout, maybe 2-mile run, just 2-mile run, 3 to 4 100-meter strides, 2 days out from the race. Maybe take the day off the day before the race, or if you still want to run, just jog for 10 to 15 minutes, just a real easy run. But shakeout run 2 days off, or 2 days before the race, and then the day off the day before. That's what I would do. Super Trebo, RunDreamAchieve. I'm doing a 21 to 22 miler tomorrow. Since it's in the 50s, I'm 1 month out from marathon. 1 month out from your marathon. Okay. You think my longest run is good to do 4 weeks out? Or should I do my longest run 2 weeks out? No, I would definitely not do your longest run 2 weeks out. 4 weeks out is okay. 4 weeks out is safe. 2 weeks out would be way too much. So I'm doing 20. I would probably, you're 4 weeks out now. Yeah, I think you're still okay even to do. I would do 21. I wouldn't do 22, but do 21 tomorrow, and then 4 weeks out you'll be fine. You're okay. Hey Kenny, how you doing, man? Good to see you here, man. I called the first mile in my 5K races Nathan's mile. Yeah, stops me racing off too hard. Yeah. My high school coach got me onto that philosophy. He was like, if you want a PR, and I take it back. I ran 15:48 in high school. It was 15:48. He said, don't on the roads. He said, don't make your move until you get through the first mile. And when I did that, I was really able to really attack and really just think of it as a 2.1 mile race rather than a 3.1 mile race. So that helps. Glad to hear it, Caden. Yes, I do have sub 15 5K training plans as well. Hey, thanks, Live Long. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Caden, you're on the path, man. You're that's impressive, man. 15:30 as a sophomore in high school. There's a lot of you guys at your level out there that just inspires me, man. It's incredible what you have. Obviously, you're training very hard. I know you're not just talented, but you're training hard as well. And it's those athletes out there that are talented, but also putting equal amounts of hard work in. Those are the athletes that I consider dangerous. Those are the athletes you had better be putting in your homework and training to race against these guys. Caden, I know, is no joke, man. 15:30, even in college, is a fast time, very solid time that a lot of athletes are hoping they could aim for. But for you doing that in high school, respect. That's awesome. Habakkuk, I always run with water, and it works for me. We don't have gel manufacturers around. Political frictions just make it hard for us to import from. Yeah, you got to do what works best for you, and most importantly, hydrating well is what counts the most. I mean, if you're not drinking enough, that's going to ruin your time. If you don't have access to gels, then hydrate. Do the best you can and get very good at hydrating and drinking rather than just sipping in the race. Look at the top female and male marathoners. When they're in their races, they are drinking. Now, granted, they have their own tables, and I've had my own personal bottles myself in the past. That's great to have that. But if you don't have that luxury and you don't have that, make sure you even if you have to stop for a few seconds at the aid station to drink, at least 2 to 3 to 4 Dixie cups. It just depends on how much fluid you need to take in. Even if you just stop, I know it's tough to stop, but if you're stopping for like 5 to 10 seconds, just enough to grab something, grab them and drink them, it's better to do that than to pass the aid stations or not taking enough fluid in the race and you just ruin your time. So that's good, Habakkuk. You're hydrating well during your training too. That's good. Hey, Hagos, good to see you. Habakkuk, so jail costs 3 plates of food here in Uganda. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Caden, if you just go to RunDreamAchieve.com and click on training plans in the top menu, when you click on that link, there's a drop down on my site where it basically says I want to run 5K and I have 12 weeks time, or I have 16 weeks of training time available, or 20 weeks if you're training for longer races, or 24 weeks. I have 24-week plans as well. So just click on training plans and there's a drop down there. It'll walk you through how to go. You can either use PayPal or Venmo there. So yeah, I wish you the best in your build up, man. Definitely you'll go under 15. Live long. Also bananas are live long bananas are definitely good for running. Easy to digest. I wish they would bring back those power bars, man. Those old power bars, they don't have them anymore. But man, I was so big into that. I would always eat those power bars all the time. And bananas, of course, are great too. Yeah, my pleasure, Caden. Yeah, those the training plan is actually what I'm doing now. I'm going through and updating all of them. It's going to take me probably about another month to update them, a full 30 days of work. But I'm placing in pace charts in them and updating the workouts as well, making the workouts a little bit more specific in terms of adding in a little bit more input. Just trying to make those the best I can as well. So, I mean, I know it's an investment. I've invested a lot of money too in training and coaching over the years. And if you want to get to the next level and you want to make the big jumps, sometimes learning from athletes that have done something that you want to do, uh, or that you just look up to. I'm the same way. Like I said, I'm pretty humble in my own. I try to even study what beginners and new athletes to the sport, they can share something with me that maybe I wasn't thinking about, or athletes that are at my level or below or wherever, beginner or elite level athletes. I definitely studied, and like I mentioned before, if you've been on here for a while, I'll leave the link to the video V Philosophy, and just listening to Dr. V Hill, what he has to say, you're going to see a different type of mindset with that guy. So it's not just about the hard work, it's about smart training smarter. You can still run a high amount of volume, but what are you doing the hours after your workouts? He's real serious about that type of stuff too. So I'll make sure I leave that after the live stream here is up. So yeah, you as well, Habakkuk. I appreciate you stopping in, man. Get some sleep. 1:30 a.m. there. Okay, yeah, it's 5:36 p.m. here in the evening. So yeah, get some rest. Appreciate you stopping in. Super Trebo, yeah, RunDream, I think I do 21 miles tomorrow, and next week has longest to be 17, 18, 3 weeks out. Speaking on nutrition, do you think lightweight hydration vest work marathon, or are they hard to wear while running? Yeah, I never wore those in a race, but if it's going to help you to make sure that you're getting in enough fluid, it's a much smarter move to wear that in the race if you want to make sure you're getting enough, versus to not do that. Yeah. Live long. Yeah. Good night to you as well. Appreciate you stopping in. Yeah. It's, a lot of times, some athletes will feel like, oh, I don't want to wear this belt when I'm in the race. Well, do you want to set a PR? You don't necessarily, it can help you if it can help other athletes get a PR and run well and stay hydrated properly, rather than not wearing it and running poor. I would much rather wear it, but I have worn those in training, so it's definitely not a bad thing for sure. Caden, or anybody, if you email me, I'll leave my email here, but you guys and gals can email me anytime, and if you have questions, that's my email address. John, welcome, John. I'm 20 weeks into my build-up for my peak marathon race, and I have 5 weeks to go. I got the flu this week, and I haven't been able to run in a week. How should I adjust my training? Most importantly, John, I hope you feel better, man. Continue to hydrate well. Don't do the best you can not to overthink this, because I know it's natural. If you get the flu or you get sick, that you want to do as much as you can to not lose any fitness. But at this point right now, you're still in good shape. But most importantly right now is your overall health. So I would, stay hydrated, drink, take some, ingest some soup, hydrate well, get good sleep, maintain your mentality, maintain your positivity. Know that even with this flu, it's still a challenge. You may not perform, or you may outperform what you think you're capable of right now. But just know that, there are challenges. And in this case, if you have the flu, and I have 5 weeks to go, you still have 5 weeks to go. So you're still going to be okay. I would just, in my opinion, if it was me, take a couple more days off, 2 to 3 days off completely. Again, you're not going to lose any fitness with that. Continue to hydrate very well, sleep well, get solid food in you, some good food in you, and you're going to be okay, man. You still got enough time, and you're 20 weeks into your build for my peak marathon race, and I have 5 weeks to go. Yeah, and you have plenty of weeks, and you're not going to lose any major amounts of fitness with this. I know it's going to be a challenge. It does affect physically, mentally, thinking, the thoughts of like, man, I get the flu and I'm down for a little bit. But I think you're going to be fine, man. Just like I said, just really pay attention to your rest. Make sure you're getting plenty of rest and hydrating well. And then once you start feeling a little bit better, then I would do some moderate workouts and continue to build on what you've already done and going into your marathon. I hope you I hope you have a great race, man. I hate to see anybody feeling bad, but hope that's helpful, man. Yeah, my pleasure, John. I appreciate your support. Caden, I went to Malone University in Canton, Ohio, and I was coached by Jack Hazen. He's actually still at Malone. I went there from 1995 to 2000. And I, like you, I ran the 5,000. I wasn't as a good of a runner as you are, though. I ran 15:19 in college for 5,000 meters, and ended up running 14:18 for 5K on the roads. In college, I ran 24:32 for 8K. A lot of it was because of Coach Hazen, just learning from what him and Dr. Vigil was teaching us, the things to think about in training, and how badly we really wanted success. But yeah, Jack Hazen is, if you go to Malone, you see here, Malone.edu is the website. You can go to their athletics page and read up a little bit about, or just Google Jack Hazen. He is one of the world's top distance running coaches. He was an Olympic coach for the 2012 U.S. Was it the London? I think it was the Sydney or London Olympics. London. He was an assistant coach for the American team. He's been a Pan American coach. Worked with a lot of world class athletes. Yeah, it was great working with him. It's great to be mentored by him for sure. But yeah. And Malone's they're very, very strong. They're always very, because of Hazen's influence, we always competed at the big races, even though at the time it was Malone College when I was there. It's Malone University now. But we would compete against, all the big schools. Notre Dame. I actually ran my 24:32 8K at Notre Dame in 1998. And I was like 53rd place with a 24:32. The winner ran 22:56. And Ryan Shea, who was years ago, he passed away at the 2008 Olympic trials. But Ryan was a 2:14 marathoner. He ran under 4 minutes for the mile. But Ryan was second in that race, ran 23:12 for 8K. So, but it was very, very competitive, very flat race. It was on a golf course like a lot of these cross-country races are. But yeah, definitely look up Coach Hazen. Just, he's another resource that's out there for you guys. Just learn from him and Dr. Vigil. But yeah, guys and gals, I'm going to head out. Like I said, I will leave the link to Vigilosophy and his book, Road to the Top. I'll try to find the link for that. If you guys want to get his book, I highly recommend it as well. Anything you can find on Vigil, this guy's, or Coach Hazen. Those are two of my biggest mentors that really helped me. So yeah, I wish you guys and gals all the very best in your training. Thanks so much for taking the time to visit here on the live stream. Hope these are helpful each week. Just like I said, it's just to bounce ideas off of each other. If you have something on your mind, or a race coming up, or anything that's that you need maybe a question answered, I'm here to help out the best I can. So yeah. So you guys have a great evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you next week. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos this week as well. And yeah, thanks again. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.